Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to this week's episode of the Video Nasty Project. This time out, we're going to take a look at the movie that pretty much launched the entire hysteria back in 1984. Tonight, we're going to take a look at Abel Ferrara's The Driller Killer. Let's check out the trailer.
See Jimmy Lane as Reno Miller, a man driven to the very edge. And then beyond. The driller killer is coming.
Just a window.
Driller Killer. So when you say the movies on the Video Nasty list, you tend to think of three movies generally: SS Experiment Camps, Cannibal Holocaust, and this movie. And according to all the reading and everything I've read about the Video Nasty craze, this was the movie that pretty much launched it. Vipco, when they were trying to get publicity for the movie, they took out a full-page ad of the drill moment that winds up on the cover of the box. And that's what set off the whole craze, the whole hysteria, was everybody protested that. Not necessarily, they didn't even see the movie. They didn't even look at the movie. They just saw that and said, holy shit, we've got to ban this. Okay. And that's what set everything off.
Wow. Honestly, I've owned this movie for years before I ever even knew that was one of the Video Nasties, and it was like, okay, whatever. I really, honestly, back in those days when I was a kid, when this movie came out, that's one of the movies I never would have been allowed to see anyway. I was too young.
So tell us about Driller Killer.
Okay, so you've got this painter, Reno Miller. He meets this old man in a church who has his name and phone number on a slip of paper, supposedly, possibly his father.
It's not really said in the movie, but it's very strongly implied that that's his dad. There's that nightmare scene that Reno has, that violence against his father. It's very strongly implied, but not actually said.
And it's basically the first time you hear about a killing and a father is back in Reno's apartment when he and his girlfriend and her girlfriend are sitting around, and his girlfriend is reading out of the paper about a murder involving a guy who has a mental breakdown, and his father's involved. And it kind of leads to the idea that Reno may be trying to steer clear of being like this bum he met in this church who may or may not be his father.
He is very much on the course to destitution. He can't sell a painting. He has writer's block, for lack of a better word. He is 3 months behind on his rent. The phone bill's due. Everything in his life is turning to shit. And the movie, we pick up the movie at the apex of his insanity. It's the end of his character arc. This has been going on for a very, very long time. He's up to his eyeballs in shit.
Yeah. And then to put another nail in the coffin, there's this up and coming popular band. Kind of a punk, almost new wave band who are doing really well. They put out their first album or tape or whatever, and they move into the apartment building and immediately proceed to drive him nuts with playing at 2 a.m.
All the time, constantly around the clock.
And he's having problems with his painting, but these guys are on point with their singing. They're getting disciplined down for their backup singers. They have a performance in a local club.
They're actually pretty good.
Yes.
So the punk band is very much a mirror of Reno. He is on his way to destitution. He is He can't get love from his fans. He is in all kinds of trouble. The punk band, on the other hand, they're doing awesome. They're well loved. They're making money, and they're successful. And they're driven to practice, which he can't do.
Mm-hmm. And part of his problem with his self-esteem, obviously, is that he's got these people roughly his age who are doing okay, and he's doing shit. Here they come. And then to top that off, the lead singer of the band, Tony Coca-Cola, comes to his apartment asking Reno to do a portrait of him. So he draws a portrait, then he starts painting it, and he actually makes enough to pay a month's rent with it. If he kept that up, he would be doing okay. But he acts standoffish against this guy, like the guy is in his territory. He's an artist, this guy isn't, kind of deal. I can paint it. He's got a major attitude problem, and this is well into the film, well past the halfway point, where he's been killing people right and left. But he's in this situation where suddenly things might change. I mean, here comes one of these avatars of his insanity right to his front door, literally into his room, and helps him by commissioning something
he gets
for
a
him
gig.
to do. Something he wasn't able to do on his own. So these guys were successful at actually helping him be successful in doing something.
But there's a jealousy aspect to it as well.
Yes, he out and out rejects it pretty much.
But he does the job, and apparently he starts doing it pretty well. His problem is he can't get the painting that he's been working on forever and a day to be sold by this gay art dealer who really is just at the end of his rope with Reno because he thinks he's just being a hack.
Yeah, he's been strung on for months and months. It's like, I got to give you money for your girlfriend's abortion. Now I got to give you money for this. And now you come begging to me for $500 so you can pay your fucking rent. Get the hell out of my office.
Yeah. And his social life is falling apart, and his girlfriend might leave him, go back to her ex, who's been sending her alimony. Yeah. And is stable.
Mm-hmm. So he is pretty much, by the time we pick up his story, he is pretty much at the breaking point. And then he's watching late night television. And this advertisement for this portable tool belt power supply comes on. And he's like, this is it. This is the solution to all my trouble. And then he goes out and murders a whole bunch of hobos.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there is a big theme running through some of his paintings. I mean, his paintings are mostly of twisted, really distorted people. Like one has a Dick Tracy head with the eyes and a side neck, with another person's head and neck on.
I like the other one, the one they had near the door of the woman's portrait with the kind of the slashes across it.
Yeah,
the slashes are paralleled to the ones
big
in the
painting
Buffalo
he's trying to
one.
sell.
And then the art agent comes in and rips it. I mean, he doesn't literally destroy it, but he just gives a terrible critique. He hates it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He won't put it up in a gallery. He won't give Reno any money for it. And it just devastates Reno, and it also devastates Carol, his girlfriend.
It pretty much drives the wedge between the two, and is the breaking point for her to get the hell out and go back to her old boyfriend.
Yeah, she's been having a little bit of trouble with Reno up to this point. Already.
Everybody's been having trouble with Reno,
including Pamela. Pamela is the other woman who lives in this apartment. She's kind of this little...
Carol's partner.
Yeah, she's Carol's kind of sex partner, kind of sex toy punkette. Likes to hang out with the band. She's almost getting between Coca-Cola and his girlfriend, and could possibly have her ass handed to her by this cadre of punk girls who are, in part of the band. And she has her own problems. She's a ditz. For one thing, she
absolutely.
Oh my God! I mean,
I want the whole hair. I want the whole hair.
No, the hair. Oh no!
Shut up, you.
Yeah. Make up your mind. And she has no life coping skills at all.
But she has tons of personality. It's just the kind of personality that makes you want to strangle her. And I think that's part of what's driving him nuts.
There's moments where she can be very sweet and very appealing, but usually she's kind of just.
There.
Oh, God, frustrating.
She's just there and always complaining about stuff. There's nothing to watch on television. Change the channel. Oh, it's going back to where it started. Oh, my God in Himmel.
So, following one of the themes we were touching on earlier, the theme about fatherhood that's woven through the thing, I think what the what the movie is trying to say, or what Reno sets Reno off on his murdering spree, is that so we've got his father who's a derelict and a bum, and we've got Reno who's on the precipice of about to become a bum. He sees this inevitable destiny coming to him. He hangs out with bums on the street. He is incorporated into the culture. He is a baby step away from becoming them. So I think his snap and killing them is an attempt to divert that destiny. He is trying to keep from becoming what his father is.
There's also a bit of anger about him as well. You know, he's like, he's not only accepted the despair in his life, he's grabbed onto it and embraced it and is hugging it to him because he's so nihilistic that he doesn't really know any better.
And I mean, he just explodes on Pamela or on Carol, you know, every chance he gets. You know, I mean, she's helping to pay the rent with her you know, her payments from her ex-husband, you know, but all he does is snap at her, you know, you bitch and eat and bitch and shit and bitch, you know, and he's just laying into her one time after another, practically kills her at one point or tries to. You know, what are you doing to me? You're driving me crazy.
But he doesn't actually get violent with it. He doesn't actually attack her. It's all verbal. It's all mental.
But that's when she snaps. That's when she realizes he's fucking crazy. You know, she throws a slice of pizza at his head, you know, following that last bit of, you know, vileness, and leaves. And he chases after her. It was also a lot of his personality. She was starting, because it's just framed.
It just boiled over at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even the violent person at the point where this, where his painting had taken a downturn. You know, it was her. She went after the art dealer. You know, she called him, you know, names and stuff like that. And he was just sitting there with this just glazed look on his face like, oh, fuck, I am so fucked. This painting is him. This painting is his psyche. He's carefully crafted this thing. You know, he's nurtured it for months. You know, it represents him.
And it's failed.
It's failed. It's a complete failure. I mean, and the thing is, I mean, this is you know, it's very it's a finished painting. You know, it looks like something that you would see like I don't know, one of those rock and roll cafes or something.
Actually, I think after the production was done, they sold it to like a New York office where it stayed for like 20 years. They don't know what happened to it, but it was around as actual art.
And it actually, in my opinion, it's actually decent art.
And whoever painted it actually got the eyes in this. They have a life to them.
Yeah.
You know, looking at this painting, it looks like it actually has a life of its own. You know, and that's kind of hard to do with painted characters.
Obviously, the art critic, in fact, was just saying it just to move the plot along. It was actually a pretty decent piece of art. I thought it was not bad.
It's like a Nagel painting, except of an animal rather than women.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Not quite as stylized, but
it kind of has that look to it. The color scheme and everything always reminded me of that.
Well, it kind of reminded me
of
a artist who does comics and such named Mobius. European artist who does
Jean Giraud.
Yeah, he does interesting stuff like that with things floating in the air. And
so, since we're kind of veering in that direction anyway, let's talk about the technical part of the movie. I loved the look of the thing. I had, you know, the colors were gorgeous. I mean, just
the lighting.
When they come into the church, I mean, there's this giant neon lit cross, and just it's so gorgeously, slavishly lit. Even though it obviously looks like a church from hell. But,
and the lighting in the club when
that's
when
one
the
of my
band is
favorite
playing,
bits. The backlit, you know,
the lighting in the street scenes.
You know, and it has
very well done.
You know, it has that graininess to it. I'm thinking
it's like shot on 16 millimeter.
So it's perfect. It's lurid.
And the
you know,
music.
It's
looks
sleazy.
Yes, it reeks with sleaze.
And the music is just spot on. I love the music, especially the bit where you got the bums drinking on the street and talking to each other.
Oh yeah, that tinkly.
And Reno's talking to a couple of them, and then they cut back to the bums drinking again, and it's just like, wow, it's just like, there's kind of this weird, upbeat, campy, cheesy sort of moment, and there's also a dark edge to it at the same time, and I really liked that.
Might I suggest a word? Minimalist.
Yeah.
This is definitely a study in minimalism. I mean, a good portion of this movie is shot in that apartment, in their apartment. I mean, probably more than a third of the movie was shot inside the apartment building, if not necessarily in that room, then in several of the rooms in the apartment, if they in fact only had the budget to shoot in one place.
Yeah, and the apartment itself is interesting because it's very stark. It's very bleak. There's very few.
Well, they were basically living in a slum, essentially.
It's definitely a New York apartment.
Yeah, and they probably had hawked some of their stuff to make rent. So.
I loved the cinema verte style. That I mean, just this. It was this not quite documentary, not quite fiction, just this weird straddling of the lines.
Kind of mockumentary.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit in between, because when he's out on the street doing the killing, it definitely has a you were there kind of feel to it.
Or the bits in the club where it's all the whipping, panning around when they were in the dressing room.
And those guys are a real band too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They're an actual band, and they're good. So they definitely know their stuff. I mean, you can tell these guys can play their own instruments. There's plenty of good shots of these guys doing their thing. It's not dubbed.
Yeah.
They do their own stuff. And the leader of the band is a friend of Abel Ferrara, so he wanted this as kind of almost a vehicle for him, to get some notoriety.
Well, it obviously worked for them because they went on.
So, and I love Abel Ferrara's directorial eye. I mean, I think he's really strong. Okay, we know that he's gone on for this point to do, The Kings of New York and Bad Lieutenant and Miss 45, and he's done so much stuff afterwards. So it's kind of impressive to see come from this very humble start. It's very small start.
And he started off in hardcore porn.
Yeah,
Nine Tales of a Wet Pussy.
Yeah, 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy.
And he's definitely a New York director. His thing is New York. That's mostly what he does. He loves that gritty city.
And might I say, 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy is the best porn title in ever. Okay, that's enough.
Oh yeah.
This movie felt to me kind of like a bit of a warm up, a bit of practice.
Right.
Yeah, and it's his acting debut. I don't know if that's the only acting he's done in front. Actually, no, because he was one of the rapists in Miss 45. He was the.
Yeah, but that's not gonna.
Yeah, but that was.
Yeah, that's not requiring a lot of acting.
Yeah,
unless you're the Beast in Heat.
Oh my God.
As
Jimmy Lane, he's a good actor. I mean, my God. I mean, he's just in it. I mean, he is just he's doing the thing, and it's like, holy crap, this guy is just insane. Where'd they get this guy? It's the freaking director. I mean, my God.
All the acting is really amateurish, but it feels real. Which, when you're acting, that's all you need to do is just feel genuine. So it's terrible acting, but it's genuine. It feels real.
You believe that these are people,
and they take the time to develop these characters. They're not just throwaway characters. I mean, they're really in there, just in the trenches doing this the old-fashioned way.
Well, like with the art critic, the first time we see him, he's talking on the phone to a guy who's probably his boyfriend, and they're doing a little bit of sweet talking, and he's saying, "Oh, I got you a nice little trinket. I'll show it to you later." And you get more of an impression of a character who, well, quite honestly, isn't seen for the majority of the movie. He's got a few good moments,
and yet
but
he's one of the prime motivators.
He is.
He's the guy. He's the guy basically on who most of the Reno's success hinges. I mean, he's the guy he sells his art to. And so if he can't sell it to this guy, then he's going to have to go through the process of going all over town to find
another agent or whatever.
Agents sellers who will move his style of art. And his stuff is definitely, to the left of center. I mean, it's weird, it's distorted, it's disturbing, some of it, but some of it is just plain and straightforward and good, But, some artists have to go through certain channels, and once you find that person, you don't want to get rid of them. So he's kind of hanging by a thread, doing what he can to hold on, to the one person that he can, impress.
Or not impress.
Yeah.
So, the question I've got for you guys, is this a horror movie?
It's a study of the psyche. It's a study of a psyche that's already slipped far down the ladder. There are horror elements to it, but I'm going to say it's more of a psychodrama, a study.
I would say it's a psychological movie.
Right. So more like Psycho is more of, but unless the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like Psycho. Like I said, it's a character study. I mean, because you really get into this guy's head. I mean, he's got these nightmares, these thoughts. He keeps waking out of these reveries where he's doing weird shit. You know?
Or he's fantasizing about killing people when he's going,
Yeah.
"Ah, ah," and there's blood flying everywhere.
It's fantasy, but he snaps out of it like, what the fuck? What the hell did just happened?
Yeah.
And he doesn't do what people do in movies whenever they wake up from something, they scream or they get startled. He just snaps out of it.
He's like, whoa.
You know, and he snaps out and it's gone. You wouldn't
Yeah.
even know he'd done that. And that's more real than people
I
waking up
think,
in
I
movies
think
and
one of
freaking
the
out.
things in
know?
a horror movie that is more traditional is you're in it from the point of the regular people, the audience, the victims, the police investigators, etc. Whereas here, you're taking at it from the completely opposite direction.
You're seeing it from the killer's point of view.
You're seeing it from the killer's point of view. I mean, almost all of the scenes involve Reno in one way or the other.
Right. All right. So, even though it's not a horror movie, what's your favorite death?
The bum at the bus stop. He's my favorite.
Damn you.
He's one of my favorite characters in the film. It's not the most creative death. I think the most creative death is the guy who gets drilled in the head.
Right.
The poster child for the, you know, this whole
But you
thing.
got to go with the bus stop guy, just because it's so quirky and weird, and it's the actual death is not that gory, but the setup to the death is so
yeah.
interesting.
Because the guy is just completely out of his tree.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the most entertaining character out of all the characters in the
And
movie.
the reaction of the other two guys at the bus stop.
They're desperately
Yeah.
trying to be New Yorkers. I don't see this crazy man behind me. Oh fuck! I've got to acknowledge
Hey,
the crazy man.
bus
behind
driver,
me.
please take care of my father.
Yeah, and it's such a good lead up to it that it makes it.
Your favorite kill?
Unfortunately, that's also my favorite kill.
Then you got to pick another one.
But I gotta pick another one. I'm gonna have to go with his first one, the guy with the coat, the one that he jumps on, and he's like trying to wake him up a bit, and then all of a sudden he's like not trying to wake him up anymore. He's like, it's just the shock and the visceralness of it. It's very primal.
The first kill was so juicy. I mean, this man literally exploded with juice. You know, with juiciness.
So my favorite kill, I'm having a tough time. I could go for the money shot, the drill to the head. That's a very strong kill. I could go with the box bum, which is just this crucified dude, and that's
yeah.
disturbing as fuck. But I'm going to have to go with the three that are on the street corner, or the two that are on the street corner. And they're just sitting there being drunk and just being homeless, and all of a sudden Reno just out of nowhere, boom, runs one of them over and just, and off he goes. And that's just a, what the fuck?
and this
then
is
he chases him around for a while.
Yeah.
this is what's so brilliant about the film. I mean, this is a very street level film. You feel the sidewalk under this guy's feet. He's not one of these unstoppable, you know, killers that can bend space and be in front of you.
Yeah, he's not Jason, he's not Michael.
He has to run. He has to run after these guys and get after him and
Well,
get him.
there's another death where it's very brief. You just see him run into the guy, just boom, knocks him over, and he's like on him and drilling him, you know, and then cut.
Yeah.
End of scene.
and there's a really good shot of him running right at the camera with the drill. You know, just you know, it's just like boom. You know, I mean,
That's gotta be my second favorite death, just simply because of the quickness and spontaneity of it.
Oh, it's the sickness with the quickness, all right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This movie does exactly what it's supposed to do. It satisfies with lots of kills, and I think it's just filled with juiciness.
So do we like the driller killer?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty insane, spectacular downfall of a psyche, and showed me a New York which, like films of its type made in that period, I'm never going to see, but I was always curious about.
New York is certainly another colorful character in the movie. So that's,
I would definitely agree.
yeah.
I
did
enjoyed
you like
it.
it? You liked it?
Yeah, I thought the story of madness and developing further and further downward, and contrasting that with another story, which is a rise of success, and of course the setting itself is completely crazy.
When I was a young boy going to the VCR, the tape rental stores, I got this movie and I looked at it and said, holy crap, this is for me, because, I mean, the cover was, in fact, just nasty, bloody, gory. And I was so crushingly disappointed because I went home expecting, Jason Voorhees with a drill. That's not what the movie is. So I watch it with adult eyes now, and I'm still not sure if I like it. I can appreciate that it's a good movie. It's well shot. The cinematography is gorgeous. The lighting is gorgeous. New York is a great character. The acting is, amateurish, but it fits the cinema verte of the movie. But I don't think I like it. All right, so there we go. A split decision. Yes, no. It's worth at least watching to see the spectacle. And being that it's public domain, you can go see it on YouTube, and it's only going to cost you an hour and a half of your time. It's at least worth that. So, does Driller Killer belong on the Video Nasty list?
I don't think it does personally. I think that it's really bleak in many areas, but the violence is of a type that you could almost run uncut like Halloween. You might have to excise some of the kills.
There's only a couple that are really disturbing and bad.
It's mostly like language. The language is really salty.
The nudity.
And the nudity, there's some sex scenes. And in general nudity in there. But those can be cut. I mean, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
With movies.
I think that there's very little that I would find worthy of censorship. Some of the killings are a bit graphic, the language, nudity. There really isn't an awful lot that's all that objectionable. I think the only things that I personally find disturbing are some of the kills.
I'm going to go with tentatively yes, because not necessarily because it's a really violent film, although it does occasionally veer into violence. I think it being an art house film, and it's purposely designed to be disturbing and bleak and mentally broken, that itself warrants being on the list. I think being a crazy, dark art house film pegs it for the blue-haired old ladies in England. No, not on the list. Yes on the list. Yes on the list, tentatively. There you go. And there we go. That was The Driller Killer. Be sure to check back in next week when Clint Howard tries to summon Satan through AOL. That's going to be a laugh riot. In the meantime, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe our stuff. Hit the subscribe button that'll be showing up right here in a second. And take it easy. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.